You ever have one of those days where you feel like the biggest thing holding you back is you? Yeah, we've all been there. Well, today we're going to dive into a framework that really breaks down what's happening in our heads, and more importantly, how we can actually win that battle. And really, it all boils down to this one question. Think about it. Every single day, there's a conversation, maybe more like a battle, happening inside your head. It's this constant push and pull, and it controls your actions, your confidence, pretty much your entire life. So the real question is, who's actually in charge up there? Okay, so picture this. On one shoulder, you've got your inner champion. This is the voice that's all about your goals, your dreams. It's the part of you that's like, yeah, we can totally do this. But on the other shoulder, you've got that inner critic. And it's fueled by fear, by doubt, and it's constantly whispering, you're not good enough. It's a real tug-of-war, right? The trick is figuring out how to make sure that inner champion is the one calling the shots. And look, this isn't just some minor thing we're talking about. Get this. According to the research we're looking at, a staggering 80 to 90% of your success is decided by what's happening right between your ears. I mean, that's not just a piece of the puzzle, that's practically the whole game right there. So, if we're going to win this internal battle, we need a way to think about it. And there's this really powerful metaphor that helps a ton, the personal cave. It's a perfect way to understand why we get stuck and, how to actually break free. So what is this personal cave? Simple. It's your comfort zone. It's that place you run to when things get a little too real. But here's the catch. It's also where your inner critic is the absolute loudest. Think about it like this. If you spent your whole life in a dark cave and someone yanked you out into the bright sunshine, what would happen? It would hurt. It would be blinding, uncomfortable. Your first instinct would be to scramble right back into the dark. And that's exactly what personal growth feels like sometimes. And this is so important to get. That feeling of discomfort, it's not a stop sign. It's not you failing. It's actually the exact opposite. It's the feeling of your eyes adjusting to the light. It's the feeling of you stepping out of that cave and into a much, much bigger world. All right, so how do we actually relate to this cave? Well, our behavior usually falls into one of 4 different mindsets. And figuring out which one is your default setting, that's the absolute first step to making a change. Okay, first up, we have the victim. This mindset is stuck way deep inside the cave, just complaining about how dark it is, but never actually looking for the exit. You'll catch this in your own head when you hear that little voice saying, if only I had more money, if only my boss wasn't so difficult. It's always about blaming something or someone else. All right, next up is the cynic. Now, the cynic is standing right at the mouth of the cave, but they're not getting ready to leave. Oh no, they're there to mock anyone who tries. The cynic's favorite phrase? Yeah, but. You know the one. Yeah, that's a cool idea, but it'll never work. They chalk up everyone else's success to pure luck, and they're the first one to say I told you so if you stumble. Then you've got the spectator. The spectator is also hanging out near the entrance, but they're just frozen, paralyzed by overthinking. This is the voice of I'll start on Monday, or I just need to do a little more research. It's that classic trap where perfectionism just becomes a fancy excuse for procrastination, right? You end up watching everyone else play the game from the safety of the sidelines. And that brings us to the final mindset, the player. This is where you want to be. This is the only place where real growth, real life happens. The player is out of the cave. They're in the arena, ready to go. We're talking about a positive, can-do, resilient, and action-oriented mindset. So here it is, all laid out. This table is a great summary of those 4 mindsets and where they hang out in relation to the cave. Just take a second and look at this. And be really honest with yourself. Which one of these sounds most like you on a typical day? Which voice is the loudest one in your head? Okay, so the goal is pretty obvious, right? We all want to be the player. The big question is, how do we actually do that? Well, it all starts with changing how you think about being uncomfortable. So what does it really mean to be a player? Well, it's about being positive, having that can-do attitude. It's about being optimistic, resilient, and persistent. But maybe the biggest thing is being action-oriented. Players don't just sit around and talk about their goals. They get up and do something about them. And at the core of all this is a growth mindset, that rock-solid belief that you can improve, that your skills aren't fixed. And this is the super important point, so I want to make it really clear. Being a player doesn't mean you never mess up. In fact, it's the total opposite. It's about having the courage to get in the arena in the first place, knowing you'll probably make some mistakes. The key is you learn from them, you get back up, and you keep moving forward. But here's the thing. Being a player isn't just an inside job. You can do all the internal work you want, but you know one of the fastest ways to get dragged right back into that cave? The people you surround yourself with. Your environment, your social circle, it's just as critical. Which brings us to your winning circle. And this is a tough question, but you have to ask it. The people you spend the most time with, do they lift you up or do they kind of drag you down? Victims, cynics, and spectators, they can totally drain your energy. They make your own doubts seem valid. They make that cave start to look cozy again. So think about it. Are the people in your life pulling you out into the sun, or are they tossing you a blanket and telling you to stay inside? And this is where this quote from Trent Shelton just hits so hard. You need to love some people from a distance. Because, let's be real, you can't always just cut people out of your life completely. But what you can do is create some healthy distance. You can choose to limit that exposure to protect your own energy and your own mindset. So what's the game plan for building this winning circle? It's pretty straightforward, really. Just 3 steps. First, you have to consciously cut back on the time you spend with victims, cynics, and spectators. Second, you gotta actively find mentors and coaches, people who will push you. And third, surround yourself with other players. Find people who are already out of their own caves and making things happen. Okay, so figuring all this out, understanding the mindsets, making that choice to leave the cave, that is a huge, huge first step. But listen, it's not the finish line, it's the starting line. Once you're out in that arena, a whole new world of possibilities just cracks wide open. The question isn't, can I win anymore? The question becomes, what game am I gonna play?